Welcome to the Why God Why podcast. My name is Peter Engler. I'm the host of this show. We're brought to you by Browncroft Community Church. We respond to the questions that you feel like you can't ask in church. So the question we're dealing with today, it's come up a little bit. It's why would I find a mentor? Sometimes it's how would I find a mentor, but I am so glad to have my new friend Daniel Sneed. He's going to share a little bit about himself, but he founded the Best Bet Skills Academy. So Daniel, welcome to the podcast.
Peter, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here. Always a good time to turn on the mic and just talk shop. So thank you for having me.
Well, we like to create an atmosphere that's like we're having coffee together. We're just recording it for a couple hundred people.
For sure. Let's do
it. So Daniel, why don't you introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, about your organization and just about what you do.
Sure, absolutely. So I am from right here in Rochester. Mm-hmm. So grew up on the west side. Started in the city, Magnolia Street between Genesee and Jefferson. Then we moved out to the suburbs and Gates. I went to Christian schools up till 9th grade and then finished at Gates Child Life. So 10th, 11th, and 12th, I did at Gates, graduated from there. I did a year of college, left school, started a business and failed a little bit, went overseas, played basketball for a little bit, came back, got a sales job, got back into business, failed some more and found kind of a cool place in network marketing. And in the midst of all of that, married my beautiful wife. Her name's Justine. We have 3 kids together. And so that kind of brings me to, where I am today, life-wise. Best Bet Skills Academy has been a product of my life and my own transformation. So I kind of, when I got into sales, that's kind of when I found my place, if you will, because that's the first time I really felt like I had a career. I was doing a business in my I started when I was 19 and it ended up failing. Then I went overseas and played basketball. And in the midst of that, I had a bunch of jobs too. Like I was one of these guys, the 20 under 20, meaning I had 20 jobs before I was 20. That's a new one, right?
No, that is. I haven't heard that.
And so when I went overseas to play ball on a pro tour, I did not get signed. Didn't play good basketball. It is what it is. And I came back and got a sales job on accident. So I was looking to become a personal trainer. And I went into a gym and they're looking for a fitness coach. That's what the ad said. So apparently that's what they call their salespeople. And so I didn't take the job on that interview because I hated sales and I'm never going to be one of these pushy salespeople and, with commission breath and all of that. I'm just too, that's beneath me. And 2 weeks later, I couldn't find a job. So I came back and said, hey, you still got that sales job? And, but ultimately that moment was really a game changer for me because even though I took the job planning on quitting after 2 weeks or whenever I found something new, I really kind of fell in love with sales and then found kind of my place. I love the idea that you could get better doing sales. I love the idea of competition. I love the ideas of the freedom that came with it when you're performing, right? When you're doing good in sales, you can say, hey, if I make 3 sales before 1, can I leave early? And they're like, yeah, sure. I just loved all of that stuff. So, that was kind of the thing that got me into like understanding kind of my career, right? So I at that point I remember I had this moment. I said, okay, when someone asks me what I do for a living, I can now say I'm a salesman. Because before that, I really didn't have that, even in my entrepreneur days, when I was starting my first business at 19, I had that, but it was just I wasn't making any money. So it kind of felt like, am I really an entrepreneur? You question yourself, especially when you're not making money. So from there, I figured out that sales was a missing piece for me, right? So I couldn't make money in business because I didn't understand the sales process. I didn't even know the sales process existed. And so now that I learned it, I'm like, oh, wait, this was probably a really big missing factor. And so went back into business, with a project called the Human Dictionary. I was teaching vocabulary words to kids through an online kind of video program. It was like reality TV meets like, I don't know, what's the show? Schoolhouse Rock. Okay. Right. So it's pretty cool. If anybody wants to check it out, those videos are actually still on YouTube. If you search Real Human Dictionary, you can see exactly what I was talking about. But yeah, so that business ultimately failed. And then I got into network marketing. And so when I got into network marketing, I just embraced it, everything that it was. And I really just, put my pedal to the metal, and I built a pretty big team over the course of about 7.5, 8 years. Team stretches from Montreal, Canada, all the way down to Bogota, Colombia. And so during that time, I really began to build skills, and I began to understand how the skills were used in my own industry of network marketing, but then I began to use them a la carte. So I had a friend that, had a video company. He was really good at making videos, wasn't great at sales. So I did some sales for him, and I jumped in as like a contract worker. So I would just bring in sales. I would take a little bit off the top, and he'd, fill the order. Then, just being able to network at a high level, I got involved in car exporting. So we were sending cars from all over the country to China, Range Rovers, ML 350s. And in 2 years, I was responsible for helping to send probably about $5 to $6 million worth of cars over to China. So I was able to do that because, again, I had a really big network, and I knew how to bring people in to help us, in what we needed. I wrote curriculums and I taught. I did stuff for after school programs where I would teach kids. A bunch of times with Hillside Work Scholarship, at schools here in Rochester. They brought me to one of their schools in Rome, New York, Rome Free Academy. So I taught 3 classes out there. So I was using all of these skills. And one day I just asked myself a question. It was just like, hey, how do you make money? Because I left my last job in 2015. So I have not had a W-2 since 2015. And so I just said, what do you actually do on a day-to-day to make money? And I broke it down to 6 skills: sales, leadership, public speaking, networking, teaching, and content creation. And so as I thought it through, I just realized that there really isn't a place that teaches those skills together in concert to teenagers and young adults. So I said, well, why not me? And so, I had the idea actually a few years ago, and I dabbled with it, didn't really do much. But in the beginning of 2021, I had actually just made a pivot, right? Because everybody's pivoting, during the pandemic, right? So pivot one for me was I was going to move from, primarily network marketing. And even that I had pivoted. I went from a recruiting-based business to a more direct sales model. So I was just going out and just selling the services. And that was my focus as opposed to recruiting. So from there, I got very interested in trucking and freight. And so at the end of 2020, we had everything set up to launch a freight dispatch company. And just kind of a really simple overview of that. Truck drivers, owner operators, and people that own small fleets, if they don't want to schedule and book the loads, they can outsource that to a dispatch company. So that was going to be us, where we were going to go out, find these owner operators where, they just want to drive, right? They own their own truck, but they don't want to, when they're in their downtime, they don't want to be looking for loads and negotiating. So they'll hire someone. So we were literally on the precipice of launching that in the beginning of 2021, and I got COVID. So I had COVID, and nothing terrible, right? In terms of I wasn't hospitalized, but I had every symptom, right? I had it just beat me bad. So I got better. And a week later, I'm like, all right, I got to get back in shape because it's still New Year's, right? You got to, I want to, be in the best shape. So I'm like, I'm going to go play basketball. So I go to play basketball, and I run up and down the court a few times, and boom, I pass out on the court. Like just drop dead. Like they thought I dropped dead. And so when that happened, when I came to, it was just crazy. I didn't even know I passed out. Like that's how sudden it was. Like it took me a minute to actually realize I was even on the floor. So in the midst of that, that was actually almost the 1 year anniversary of that day. It was January 26th last year. So almost literally 1 year from that. So a friend of mine, encouraged me. He said, hey, I'm a police officer, and we've been seeing stuff like this. We've been getting calls like this with people that are just getting over COVID. You need to go to the ER. Go figure out what's going on. And he was like, I'm not going to let you not go to the ER. I know how to get a hold of your wife on Facebook. I'm going to make sure you go to the ER. So I went to the ER. So the ER sent me home. The next day I woke up in a lot of pain in my chest, excruciating pain, couldn't breathe, just couldn't figure it out. And so went back to the ER and they just said, it might just be something with your ribs. You might have hurt yourself when you passed out. So I'm like, okay, but I still feel terrible. So they, put me on, just said, take some pain medicine. That was Monday. Tuesday is the day I went back. Wednesday, I didn't go to the ER at all, even though I felt like death. I thought I was going to die because I physically and literally could not take a breath. Like my lungs and my chest just wouldn't lift. And so I suffered through the night, Wednesday night. And, I had an appointment with my doctor on Thursday and I couldn't walk 10 steps to get to the car. Like I just didn't have breath. And being an athlete, I just took a deep breath and it was amazing because I'm literally kind of reliving that moment where I could to not be able to breathe is something you just don't think about. To feel like you're drowning, but you're not underwater. And so couldn't get to the doctor. He did a video conference with me and he looked at me. He said, you look terrible and you're going to die. You need to go to the ER now. So he's like, when you go, do not let them send you home till they figure it out. Because I've been to the ER several times already. I had EKGs. The EKG was like, your heart is fine. They just couldn't figure out what's going on. I get back to the ER and they said, we're going to do a CAT scan. So they do the CAT scan. And when they came in with the results, the doctors were completely they're like, we don't know how you're alive. You have multiple massive clots in both of your lungs. You probably should have died when you passed out on the basketball court on Monday. And just hearing that and then understanding the gravity of what blood clots are, understanding the gravity of them being in your lungs, I just knew that God spared me. When the doctor looks at you and tells you we don't know how you're alive because of how severe these clots are, it's just that was a wake up call for me. So, so I had some recovery time. So if you don't know this, if you're listening, when you get blood clots, and I know it's in the lungs particularly, I don't know about the rest of the body, but it actually kills the part of your lung where the clot is dies. So not only do you have to go on blood thinners, they have to get rid of the clot, but then your lungs have to rejuvenate, which they do. They have to rejuvenate themselves. So it's not like, okay, once the clots are gone, then you're out of the woods. You gotta there's this process of waiting. And so I had to sit down. I sat down and it was great timing, how everything happened for me. Because I was in a situation where, because of the changes that I made in my network marketing business the year before, I had built up a nice residual. So I didn't have this pressure to go back to work. I was able to kind of just relax and breathe, if you will, or kind of get back to breathing again. But in that time, that's when I really started thinking about, what am I really doing career-wise? For me, freight was a money play, and not in an evil way. It was just that was my next move in business. Right?
I need a paycheck.
Exactly, 100%. Yeah. And but I really started thinking, no, I want to leave a mark. I want to do something that is completely different. I want to impact people, and how can I do that? So I started just thinking. And so from there, I got into podcasting. So I started my own podcast, the Hustle Bone podcast. So if you get a chance, check that out. But I started a podcast. And then as I began to learn more about the space and just content in general, right? I put myself through this 10-week just boot camp, or just this intense college course on just content, where I just read everything I could on, how to monetize, how to do this, how to do that. And I thought about Best Bet Skills Academy. Initially, it was something that was going to be in person, that I was going to teach for free, basically as a value add and as like a give back for my business. But I said, no, this has some merit to it. This could be my next move. And me and my wife, we discussed it, actually driving back from Florida in March of last year. Yeah, March of last year. And we made a quality decision. And for those listening, me and my wife, we have this thing called a quality decision, that when we make a quality decision, we don't retreat. Whatever that quality, that's where we're going with it. And so we did that. And so I went out and actually got a mentor, enrolled myself in a course on how to build and market an online course. And so that's what kind of was the pivot that brought me into the space. And, we actually, I did a prototype of the course in July that went fantastic, because you got to test everything. I want to teach kids about networking, sales, leadership, public speaking. Do kids want to learn this, right? You have to be able to answer that question. Mm-hmm. And we found that teenagers, young adults, they love it. They were fully engaged. Some of the parents of the students that took that course were concerned because it was Zoom. And they're like, our kids are Zoomed out. They don't want to do Zoom again, but the attendance rate for each call was above 95%. Wow. Because they wanted to be there. They were engaged in the information. And so over the summer, the prototype, it showed me that the next generation, Gen Z, they see value in what I was sharing with them. And I built the course out over the next 3 months, and here we are today, and I'm just sharing what it is. And I forgot what the original question was that you asked me.
Well, no, you did it. No, this is great. Let me kind of back up. That was a good overview, but so I think what's in my mind, you mentioned having a mentor when you started Best Skills Academy.
You just call it BBSA.
BBSA. Thank you so much.
I got you.
I went over it like 3 times. I knew I was going to do that, so I appreciate your graciousness.
No worries.
Before you started, this business, did you have a mentor before that? Yes or no? And then I'll have a follow-up.
Absolutely.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay. So you went through a lot. Mm-hmm. What basketball team, I'm just curious, did you try out for?
So I made a team called USA Select.
Oh, okay.
And that team was a tour to go over to Europe, and you play exhibition games, and you play, basically it's a showcase, and you play in front of these coaches, and you hope that after the game they come up to you and say, hey, we want you to stay.
Got it.
Yeah.
So what about your story in the season that you were starting business, looking for your job, playing basketball? What made a difference having a mentor for you there? Because that's a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say the mentor came for me more so once I got into network marketing. So, before then, I was kind of, and I take that back. And I had some mentors before then, because for my first business, it was a nonprofit, and we had a board of directors. So I had some people that were around me that were like, giving me some counsel, giving me some advice. A really, really awesome attorney that I keep in contact with to this day. I just think he's amazing. He's retired now, but shout out to you, Craig. Just an amazing guy. And he's just the smoothest guy. He's the first person that ever, and I'm 19 when I met him. He's the first person that I ever saw that had his shirt with the cuff or his initials monogrammed into his cuffs. And so just smooth. So I did have some mentors there. I wish we had a sales guy. Somebody could taught me how to close sales so I could raise some money. But when I got into network marketing, that's really when, mentorship really was like, it was really a thing for me in business. And, network marketing is one of those industries that, unfortunately it can get a bad rap. Everybody's been approached by someone, everybody's been in one. Most people know it as a, derogatory term, pyramid scheme, which they're not, but whatever. But that environment was awesome. It was an awesome place because, you really have to develop as a person. And so, my mentor, his name was Jacob Rizzo, was just really fantastic. He cared about me. He saw greatness in me that I didn't see. And I remember at one point, I was getting ready to be a typical network marketer. I didn't start my business with a bang. I didn't have like this, rags to riches in 1 year story, which you hear sometimes in that industry. I started slow, and I want to say I started in December of 2013, and around March, I was pretty much out. I wasn't really showing up to meetings. I wasn't doing the business. And so he just called me one day, and he had this conversation with me, and he was like, "Man, you like Michael Jordan, man. What if Michael," and it could seem corny, looking back on it. But in that moment, like, I think for me, what, was a difference maker is that he just believed I could do it. And I had a lot of failures up until that point. Failed business, failed basketball, failed business again, and was about to fail another business, right? And so, but I really didn't have somebody like calling the best out of me and just saying like, yo, like, stay the course, don't give up. And so after that conversation, I stayed in the game. I didn't have that wasn't my turnaround moment. I didn't, that wasn't the aha moment. It came later on, actually, towards the end of that summer, when at that time we were expecting our first, Maya Nicole. And so it was just like, I want a different lifestyle. I don't want a regular 9-to-5 lifestyle. 9-to-5s aren't bad at all. I encourage people, if you can work a great 9-to-5, your job, if you want to be in business, will be your first investor. But for me, one thing I did know is I knew my core values. My core values are time over money. So if you tell me, hey, Daniel, you can make $300,000, but you'll never see your family, or Daniel, you can make 75, but you could be with your family all the time, that 75 is way more appealing to me. And I've turned down, different positions, even businesses that don't offer the type of lifestyle that I'm looking for and want to create. I'm not interested, because I have time is my core value. And so, so just having someone, as you build that business, I think that's one of the most, overlooked, or one of the hidden secrets of network marketing, is that a lot of times they come with a mentor. Now, obviously, I was blessed. I had a good mentor. Not everyone has one. I mean, you could join a network marketing company today, and the person that recruited you can quit tomorrow. And it's happened to people before. And so that was really kind of like my first kind of, interaction with like business mentorship. My dad, he's always been there. Shout out to him. So he's always been a mentor, but on a business front, it was then. But, even my dad, like, just he gave me some nuggets, coming up, you are your own commodity. What does that mean, Dad? That means that whatever whatever knowledge you have, that you can create income from it. You can monetize it, because you now become your own source. I'm like, wow, okay. So things like that I took to heart. He got me to read, and into reading. And whenever I asked him what a word was, he would say, go look it up in a dictionary. So even that was huge for me, because I had a much larger than normal vocabulary for my age. And so that I was always able to converse with people on a higher level, or people older than me, because I could hang with them. Like, I knew what they were saying. I knew different types of careers. So, my dad would be probably my first mentor, my mom and dad together. And then, when I got into network marketing, that's when, I had a business mentor that was like, okay, here's how you do this business. Here's how you build this. And, ultimately network marketing is what put me in the position to not have to work a 9-to-5 job. And, that was a huge goal for me.
So let's kind of come back to BBSA for a second, because I think one of the fascinating things about you is you're kind of on the front edge of mentoring Gen Z. Yeah. And, I think, and I'd love for us to interact about this, because the old kind of way of doing mentoring was, I'm the sage, you're the mentee, come find me. Or, I mean, kind of in your situation, it was, hey, I believe in you. Like, I'm not going to let you go. Like, so there's this, but what you're saying in BBSA is that, hey, I want, like, come check out this course. And it's almost like a trial, like not a trial, but like, it sounds to me like I want to feel you out. And I just feel like your experience with Gen Z and mentoring is very different. I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong or not.
So, I do have an interview process for the course.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and it's not that I'm trying to keep kids out, but I want the right kids in, right? So BBSA is not school. And it's funny, in this day and age, you make that distinction because of what education has become, and that education isn't so much what the root of the word is, which is to draw out, is more or less to learn to memorize and take a test, right? And so this is not that. And I'm very clear with parents. I'm very clear with young adults. Like, if you choose to take this course, like, I expect you to want to do it, right? And so we talk through, what their future goals are, what they're on the way to. And there's got to be a mutual understanding and a mutual agreement that I see value in these subjects, and I'm willing to stay the course and take the course, right? So that's the first thing, is that, the kids have to buy in. They have to. And at the same time, I know the kids I'm looking for. So I have five what I feel like are the perfect fit for BBSA. That's the achiever. Achiever is just going to do good with anything you put in front of them. And if they see value, they're going to do even better, right? Because it's, okay, wow, I can use this. Okay, cool. The kid that either is a gap year, maybe they were in college and left college, or, haven't gone to college yet at all. That's a kid that I want, that is looking for more, that, hey, I'm working a decent job, but I want something better, hungry. I think that's the underlying word for everything. I'm looking for kids and young people that are hungry. I'm looking for athletes that, want to, number one, be able to monetize their name and likeness. That's a new thing now. But if you can monetize, but you don't have skills to monetize, then what good is it that you can monetize? I'm looking for kids that have an entrepreneurial just mindset. They just, from the jump, they know, I want to own a business. I want to be in position, where I'm creating businesses, creating jobs. I'm looking for that kid. And last but not least is me, who I was, which are kids that are really intelligent, but they underperform in school or underperform academically, because there's a theme with kids like that. The theme with the kids that are really intelligent but underperform, it's just a lack of value. They don't see value in the curriculum. Not that they don't see value in school or the teachers, but you can argue with me with why they don't see value or whatever. But the reality is they don't see value, because if they saw value, effort would back it up, because value and effort live together, right? You typically don't get one without the other. And so first, it's identifying, the right kids, and making sure that I have kids that want to be here, right? Because everything's easier when people want to be somewhere, right? I think a lot of teachers struggle with that in school, because they're dealing with kids that would rather be somewhere else for a plethora of different reasons. Not to say that they're right or wrong, but it just is what it is. And working with Gen Z, here's what is incredible about Gen Z. Gen Z is the most educated generation ever, because they have access to the most information ever. Literally, I enrolled a kid in my course who had already built an online course. Like, he already had an online course that he built. And what was awesome is that he didn't have he didn't understand the sales process. It was never taught to him. So he didn't do great with sales because didn't know the sales process, right? It's a blind spot for him, right? So now in my course, he's learning sales. He's learning the sales process. So now he's learning, okay, I got to have these things in order or in place so that I can get a sale, right? Because you don't, a sale is intimate. It's someone giving you hard-earned money that they worked for, right? And so, a lot of times people want to just jump from, hey, what's your phone number to can I have your money? Like, no, you got to take them out on a date. You know what I'm saying? You got to talk to them. You got to hear about them or whatever. And it is, I hate to put it kind of in that term or in that light, but that's kind of what it is. And so, so they have a ton of information. They're doing big things. They want to do big things because things are in front of them all the time. They're on TikTok, they're on Instagram, they're watching influencers. They're seeing people that are creating dream lives. And I just had a student, refer me a book that I'm reading right now. And I love the book. And the book is actually giving me, what's the word I'm looking for? It's giving me research behind what I'm teaching in Best Skills Academy. It's a book called Limitless by Jim Quick. Have you heard of it?
I've heard of it, yeah.
Phenomenal book. And he talks about how, one of the biggest issues that parents are having is I can't get my kid to do schoolwork. Well, what the parents don't know is that our brains will reject information that it doesn't feel is relevant. Your brain does that to you. So when you have your own brain sabotaging you, it's not that they can't learn trigonometry, but trigonometry will they'll learn it with more effort because the brain is basically, you have to bully your brain to say, hey, I need to learn this. But why go through that? Mm-hmm. And I think that's the question that we have to answer for Gen Z is why trig when I can do TikTok dances and make a living?
Well, so I guess kind of, I think you and I, we're the same age, right? We're close. We don't have to give our ages. But
I'm 34, 87, baby. I'm in the 80s all day. I don't care.
Oh, you know what? I'm 35. All right,
okay,
there we go.
Boom.
So I feel like you and I are kind of getting into this weird season of life that we're moving closer and closer to being the older generation.
Oh my gosh.
So here's kind of some things that I hear kind of in the middle.
Sure.
All right. The younger generation doesn't want to hear from me. Like I reach out to them and I don't hear back. Mm-hmm. Like I invite them to coffee or, sometimes at the church, like we invite them to a next step mm-hmm. and they don't respond back. But then I kind of hear the older generation, like they're giving advice about TikTok and I'm like, you don't even have a TikTok account. Like, so I have a TikTok account. Mm-hmm. I have no clue what I'm doing. Okay. I had my second daughter and Clubhouse was real big. I love Clubhouse. Mm-hmm. I haven't been on it because all you got to do is sit and listen. Right. Like you don't even have to talk. Yep. Like, and mm-hmm. if you want to talk, but TikTok, I'm like, holy cow. Like you have to think about video and what you're going to do. And so we have this like weird tension where on one hand, hey, I'm willing to reach out to you. Is it something that I'm doing that, maybe what you're saying, you don't see value, but then, even for like, I want to protect myself from becoming let me tell you how to do this. And it's
sure.
like, I have no idea what I'm talking about. I mean, how do you manage that tension kind of, cause you and I are both in the middle of this?
So I think that, for me personally, I still feel very close to my teenage years.
Okay.
I still feel like I have a very great memory, a very great recollection of that time in my life. And so there's some core things that I go back to that I feel like gives me an advantage. Number one, I know that I listened way more than people thought I was. Mm. I remember the conversations that my parents had with me, that different people around me, I had youth leaders, I grew up in church, I had youth leaders, mentors, from, youth group, youth pastor who said things to me and who probably thought at the time they were talking to that wall over there. But I would retain those things and those things when I needed them, they were there for me. So I know that about teenagers. So for me, and I'll tell you a great story. This happened yesterday. So I have a really, really great friend of mine in Charlotte, North Carolina. She is a celebrity braider. I mean, she braids Allen Iverson's hair. She braids so many different NBA players. And so she has a 17-year-old daughter. And so her daughter is enrolled in the course. And she enrolled her. And immediately her daughter did nothing with the course. So, I was like, all right, hey, I'll just follow up. Hey, I haven't seen you, do any work because I can track the progress in the course, on the back end. So I, reached out a bit and I said, you know what, I just got to let it go. I got to focus on, my other kids. I cannot babysit her, right? She agreed that this was something that was for her because she had an interview, right? Even though she, her mom was a good friend of mine, she still got interviewed before, she got in. And so, everything lined up in the interview. So I'm just like, okay. So I didn't move her to the side, but I just focused on the kids that were there, right? I focused on serving the ones that were showing up. Yesterday, I get a text from her mom, my friend, and she says, hey, my daughter, she needs the login information for the course. She's ready to get going. I'm like, yes, because teenagers, sometimes you got to wait them out. And so it's the, what's the word I'm looking for? It's the anxiety of waiting sometimes that can get the best of parents, the older generation, because we just feel like they're not moving at our speed. When in reality, everybody's going to do everything on their own terms, right? One of the greatest gifts that God gave us is free will. We can do as we choose. Like, I'm here engaged in an interview with you, but like right now, if I just wanted to get up and leave and not complete it, I can. I'm not going to, but you couldn't stop me. I mean, you could try, but like
that wouldn't be a pretty sight. So no.
So there's just, I think just realizing that, young people, they get it when they get it, and just being there when they do get it. So I think that's a strategy that I use. I try not to be just, too aggressive with trying to enroll, or even getting them to do work once they get in. The other thing is, I dangle a carrot. I think that, and it's funny, for years doing network marketing, there's so many rules. Because in past years, people would entice people, hey, here's my check. I made $70,000 this month, doing network marketing, working from home, boom, I don't do any work. And so you cannot show pay stubs in network marketing. You can't show receipts. It's illegal now. It's called enticement. So I'm not in that space with this. So now I can dangle the carrot. I can tell them, look at anybody that's successful. Anybody that is where you want to be, what you consider successful. It could not be $1 million. It could just be working a 6-figure job, right? It could be all of those people to some degree are using what I teach in Best Bet Skills Academy at a high level. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, so you want to be an athlete, you want to play pro sports. Well, how good are you at networking? Because what's gonna hurt. What's gonna hurt is that I'm in a place where I'm teaching you how to build your network right now. And if you don't take it serious, or if you don't listen, or if you just choose not to take the opportunity, you're going to see somebody eventually on a pro team that is not as good as you. And they're there because they had the network. Because it's not what you know, it's who you know. And it's so, you want to know something that's really, really cool? Like, I've been the first person to say that phrase to like so many kids that have come through the course so far. Like, I'm like, have you heard of it? They're like, no, never heard. I'm like, yo. And it's just like, boom, like, yo, because that is like, your network is it's life. It's your lifeblood, And so yeah, I think that, for me, it's understanding that, number one, Gen Z has a lot of knowledge and information. They can teach us something if we sit down and we listen, because they know more than us, because they're on their devices way more than we are. It's being patient. It's understanding that, you just can't beat people over the head, especially teenagers, because they will become more stubborn. They will just harden even more. And then the other thing is I look for kids that it's the right time for them. I've had several kids where I said, not the right timing, not a good fit. And it's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, because it's better that I say no now, and then the opportunity not be tainted maybe a few years from now when it's the right timing, versus they get in now, they don't see the value, they really don't understand it, and they maybe feel like, oh, I didn't get what I wanted to out of that course, but they also weren't ready for it, so that's on me. And so I think Gen Z they're in a really good place. I just think that we have to be intentional, and we have to be thoughtful on how we communicate and the messages that we send to them.
So I'm 24 years old. Whether I attend church or not, I'm looking for a mentor. Mm-hmm. What do I do?
What do you do? there's a lot of things you can do. So I think number one, you have to kind of figure out where you want to be mentored at. You know, what spaces, you know, what are you moving towards? Is it something in athletics? Is it something spiritual? Is it something whatever? I think you got to decide like what you're looking for, right? The other thing is take action. You know, just move in the direction of the thing that you want, right? So if you're like, man, you know, I really could use, you know, a mentor in I don't know, finance, right? I really could, you know, I want to know how to make some solid moves and put myself in the best position. Well, if you start to, you know, hang out at the finance book section or the business book section at Barnes & Noble, you know, you might strike up a conversation with someone that could tell you something. If you are intentional to go where the people are that are making good money, there's a high chance that you can build a relationship. And one of the things that I learned from Bob Burg, who is the author of one of my favorite books, The Go-Giver, he was actually a guest on my podcast. You should reach out to him. He'll probably be a guest on here. No, for real. He's a really awesome guy. But he said that successful people are oftentimes much more willing to mentor than we know, or than we think, I should say. And so I think it's just reaching out, you know. I know for me, even, you know, outside of, you know, BBSA, right? I have, you know, little brothers, right? Little sisters, the people that I mentor, they're not in the course, it's just life. You know, that might be relatives, might be close friends of the family. I will always give more to the young person that seeks me out. Always. If you're going out of your way to find me, to get in touch with me, then I'm going to make it my business to serve you to the best of my ability because you're hungry. And there is something that being hungry just does. It just, and I think being hungry, you could almost say it is synonymous with faith, right? Faith is the substance, right? It's the tangible stuff of everything we hope for and the things we can't see. Faith pulls, you know, things from the unseen into the seen. And so I think if you're 24 years old and you're looking for a mentor, you know, in whatever area you're looking for a mentor in, you know, start to show up in the places where they are. And in this day and age, you don't even have to leave your house to do that. That could mean, you know, going into the right Facebook group. That could mean, you know, shoot, now we got the metaverse. That might mean putting on the Oculus and walking around, you know, the metaverse. You know, there's so many ways to put yourself in a position to get mentorship. You got to have at least a direction, right? You don't need the roadmap, but you need a direction.
Well, and I love what you said, because I think you and I had coffee together and we talked about this. Like, when people ask me like how to find a mentor, it's basically your answer. And I look back, there was a moment I was living in Philadelphia. My to-be wife lived here. And all of a sudden, like, I had to call, email, and just get to know people. And I think people are surprised at how many people say yes. They're surprised, like, we're afraid of rejection. And, you know, I think even with mentoring, you know, I love what you said too about what is it specifically that you're looking for. You know, I used to have a boss here at Browncroft. He's now the chairman of the elder board, Sam Huey. You know, he said, you know, mentoring is specific and there's a specific time. And I think sometimes we just overthink it. And, you know, going back to the dating, you're not dating your mentor, hopefully not. But I don't want to go there. But
right.
But you know, you have 2 or 3 coffees with them or lunches, and then you chart out a plan. You know, are we going to go through a book? Are we going to talk about this? You know, right now I have a volunteer coach. He's a guy from the church. We've started to develop a leadership development process. His name's Gary. You know, our process is over, but I'm still meeting with him, getting, you know, the perspective. And Gary's very different than me. And I'm so grateful for that, because Gary is like the task, logical, like, I'm going to tell it like it is. And he's self-admitted, he's grown in, you know, being sensitive, kind of reading the room and things like that. I also, I have multiple, I can see every part of my life having a mentor, but I realize like I took the action. Yeah. I took and kind of what you said, when you do that, people give you way more. And, I'm thinking about, he's a friend, but he's also a mentor. He happens to be older. Like I call him and bounce off stuff. Like he's done more for me than I feel like I could ever do, for him. And it's amazing when someone younger reaches out to me, says, hey, I need help with this. Sometimes I can't really help you, but 90% of the time I can find someone that can, and I don't know how many times, if this happens, maybe I got some more work to do, but like, I don't know how many times I tell people, send me your resume. Well, let me see what I can do. Send me what you're looking for. Let me see what I can do. And I think you're so right, about that. Let me, this conversation has gone fast, so it's great. Last two questions, so to speak. How does faith, because we've been super practical, how does faith in following Jesus inform what you do?
Many ways. I think actually my wife and I, we were having a conversation 2 days ago. No, it was yesterday. We were having a conversation. No, it was 2 days ago. 2 days ago, we're having a conversation, specifically talking about Matthew 33, right? So seek first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you, right? So, we're building a new business. This is a new baby, right? And so our thought is, man, how can we, what is in the midst of this, right? Because, understanding what our calling is, understanding what, our season is within, the business of BBSA, what does it look like to seek the kingdom? And specifically kind of asking that question. And so, I said it to her, and we began to talk through it. What does it look like? And for us, it looks like being intentional to add value to young people wherever we can go, being intentional to share, as often as I, have a chance, and as I build relationship, build rapport, share Christ. Evangelism is a big part of who I am. It kind of just flows from me, if you will. And so, looking for those opportunities, looking for opportunities to serve, not just to get the student to enroll, right? And for me to collect money from them, but how can I just be a source of value, And so I think that is really the biggest thing is, Jesus said, if you love me, feed my lambs. If you love me, feed my sheep, that's really like one of the ultimate ways that you can show them that you love them. So in this day and age, we're in a space where, people need to be served, obviously spiritually, right? And that's what the church is for, right? That's what the ministry of the church is for. But then there are people that they need to be served in practical ways, and even again, every conversation that I try to have with a young person, I want to leave them with value. I was talking to someone the other day about, he's working to get to a Division I college to play football. And I just gave him some little nuggets. Hey, here are some things you can do right now to increase your chances. I didn't make him go through the firewall of my course. It was just, just here. Here, it's free, freely I receive, freely I give. And so yeah, from a spiritual standpoint, I think for us, it's very simple. It's just serve. It's just serve because there's peace in developing the right skills to be successful, right? There's peace and, like, you said, if you, if it's in you to do good for somebody and you don't do good, then, that's sin.
Well, hold on. You pulled one more question out. So.
Okay, sure.
So you quoted Matthew 6:33, seek first the kingdom. And, the church and Christianity, as you even talk about mentoring, they have this weird relationship with success and money. And, the interesting thing about this conversation is people could leave thinking like, whatever they think about success and money. But I think what I hear you saying is I realize the context that I'm in, I realize, you know, success and money are important, but you're saying, no, I seek Christ first. So how do you kind of reconcile that? Because I'm sure growing up in church and like there's this weird relationship with all of that. How do you? Yeah.
That's an easy answer for me.
Okay.
You just read the Bible. There's a really simple answer. The money is not the root of all evil. The love of money is the root of all evil. Solomon said in Ecclesiastes that money answers all things. In Proverbs, he says, nobody listens to a broke person. You know, you want to influence the next generation. You know what I mean? Like it helps. It helps to be on a path of success. You know, even a story with the rich young ruler, you know, people always read the one part. They say, oh, you know, Jesus says, sell everything you have and come follow me. And he turned away and walked away, boom, sad because he couldn't do it because he didn't have wealth. Wealth had him. But they don't read the verses underneath that. The very next thing Jesus says, man, if the kid would have just followed me, I'd give him everything he had plus in this life. It's in the book. And whether or not you just are deciding to not agree with that part or that's up to you. I typically don't fight that fight. You know, I focus on what he says in the word. You know, he says, what's the word? He says, I would that you prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers, you know, and your soul prospering is not just your soul. It's holistic. It's your soul, it's your business, your well-being, all of that stuff. So, I really don't have that discussion. I don't get into that because I know what it says. And so I just focus on what it says as opposed to what people are saying, because that's when you get in trouble. When you start focusing on what people say and what they think and, you know, man, nobody's thoughts has ever paid my bills before. I mean, I wish, but it doesn't work that way. And so.
No, that's a perfect place to close. So we always end the podcast with, what does Jesus say about this topic? So I, you know, as a host, answer first, and then you get to clean up my mess. So, you know, so what does Jesus have to say? Why would I find a mentor? You know, I look at Jesus's life, and he had a group of like 50 or 60 that kind of were following him. Then he had a group of 12 that he invested in. Then he had a group of 3. You jump to and he really invested in those 3. But then you jump to the book of Titus, and there's a clear younger women with older women, younger men with older men. And, you know, Christianity and following Jesus assumes that you have a great relationship with the next generation, or you're working towards that. And I think I love what you were talking about. We live in a time that there's more information out there, and the younger generation is going to have more information, but all of us need those skills of someone ahead of us. Sure. You know, I don't know how many times I get on the phone. You know, I have people that ask me business advice because I'm a pastor. I have no clue. You know, so, and I tell them that. I go, I have no clue. I've never walked through that. Let me call someone that does. And it's amazing to me that the moment I share the situation with them and connect them, they're like, oh, they need to do this, this, and this. Sure. And so I think it's just, you know, if you're listening and you're looking for a mentor, like, you know, I don't think Daniel or myself said anything crazy. We just said, go find them. And I think that that's the way Jesus modeled it. There's a way to, when you find a mentor, or when you even start that process, you're actually giving value to other people, which is huge. So there you go. What do you got?
Absolutely. All right. Ask the question one more time.
What does Jesus have to say about finding a mentor?
I think he has to say to do it. He's very clear. You know that, I'm trying to think of an exact verse. But I just think even Jesus himself, he said, I don't do anything I don't do or say anything that the Father doesn't tell me. Mm. So he was submitted, right? So there's always a place of submission as believers, right? And even one to another, like that's why we have pastors. Pastors are shepherds, right? And they're people that can look out and they can see danger. They're people that can, they've been through a little bit more. And I think one of my favorite scriptures is, we overcome by the blood of the Lamb, by the word of our testimony. So the testimony, who is that for? That's for the next generation. You think about Israel, and how many times when they, had a significant victory or won a battle or whatever the case may be, there was a miracle where God would say, build an altar so you can remember. Remember. And so it's just like, having that word of mouth, having that oral tradition, right? It's powerful. And here's one thing that I'll say this. You, in speaking to someone that may be looking for a mentor, you going out and taking that step to connect with and become, a mentee, you're serving the mentor because you're giving them a place to give value, and it's really symbiotic. Like I think about, some of the relationships that I've built because of BBSA, where, now, for example, one of my students, Tejon, he was in the prototype course over the summer. He's in the video, right? And so I was at an event where I was speaking, and I reached out to him and said, hey, I'm going to be speaking at this event. Would you? And before I could get the words out of my mouth, he said, I'll be there. He said, I'll be there. And he came out and he filmed it for me. And he did it with a great heart, great attitude, because he wanted to add value to me, because it's really awesome. And I believe some of the best mentorship relationships can turn into friendships. And ultimately, like, that's always what my goal is, right? I always, I want to have friends. I want to have friends that, we can do life together. And obviously there's some people that are seasonal or whatnot, whatever. Some things may be more transactional than others. But ultimately, it's about serving one another. And I think that's what the epitome of Christ's whole existence was on this earth, was he came to serve. He washed his disciples' feet. We forget that. We forget that, he washed their feet, and they didn't wear socks and sneakers like we do today. Like, our feet are relatively clean all the time, and we wouldn't touch somebody's feet. But they were walking around in the mud and the dirt all day, and he was willing to wash their feet. And so, even just being a mentor, being willing to wash somebody's feet, being willing to serve somebody, because that's all leadership is. When employees or when people at a company, when they need help, they go seek out a boss to serve them, right? I can't figure out how to do this or that. Okay, I'm going to serve you and helping you through this. And so I think what Jesus says is it's a great way for one generation to serve another, and vice versa. And I think Jesus is the ultimate mentor. And he gave us a lot in terms of an example to follow in being great mentors and even being great mentees.
Wow, what a way to close the episode. So it's on a shirt, Daniel's shirt, bbsa.info. You're on social media, so make sure you follow him. We'll be tagging him. Thank you for joining us for this episode. Our website is whygodwhypodcast.com. Subscribe to our email. Daniel, thanks for joining us today.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And where can they find you on Instagram?
The Big Bro _Dan. If you type in the Big Bro, I'm going to come right up, and it's going to be a picture of me with a green background, but it's the Big Bro _Dan.
I love it. And you're on Facebook too, and Twitter.
Yep. Just Daniel Sneed on Facebook. Twitter, not so much. You can only have I do Facebook, I do Instagram, I do TikTok, and TikTok is the same, the Big Bro _Dan, and YouTube.
Well, there you have it, folks. Now you got to go find him. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful day.